Alaikum and welcome back to the mid-morning talk show with me, Rashida Khan, here on Salam Media. And after that very, very stimulating conversation with the poet Zakia Sibda on her book, we're now moving to something completely different, but just as important. So today we are speaking to Cassim Abdullah, who is the Business Development Executive at EMERGIVAC. So just to read his bio, Cassim is the Business Development Executive of EMERGIVAC. His track record is in financial services that spans over 23 years, both locally and internationally. Cassim has been part of EMERGIVAC for more than 2 years and has been instrumental in rolling out EMERGIVAC's B2B strategy. I think that means business to business, but Cassim can explain that further. Cassim takes a special interest in the Takaful products and also wears a compliance hat as the registered key individual for the financial services provider. Assalamu alaikum, Cassim, Brother Cassim, and welcome to the program.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Rashida, shukran so much for having me today.
Jazakallah. It's always a pleasure. So, to get right into it, tell us, Cassim, in a month where we focus so deeply on spiritual preparation, it's just as important to consider practical preparedness, right? For ourselves, our families, and our communities. Health and emergency support are often things we only think about when we need them, when something actually goes wrong. But proactive planning is part of responsible living. I'm looking forward to unpacking how EMERGIVAC Sharia works and why this kind of service is particularly relevant to us as Muslims. Okay, so first, before anything, just tell us a little bit about EMERGIVAC, what it is in a nutshell.
No, shukran so much once again for the opportunity. EMERGIVAC Sharia is a product that we developed with the community in mind, and that's actually at the core of this product. It is, of course, a takaful product, so it is Sharia compliant. But importantly, it is a product that has been designed as a medical emergency and evacuation benefit.
Okay.
And what it does is it allows a member to get into a private healthcare facility in the event of an emergency.
All right.
And it could be an illness-related emergency. It could be an accident-related emergency. Our core focus and our concern is that the member gets care as quickly as possible and lands up in a facility that can address the situation as quickly as possible, because that first 24 hours, 48 hours are absolutely critical. So we basically would then allow the member to be transported to a hospital by private ambulance, and then also get the necessary care while they are in hospital, whether it is surgery, theater, ICU, high care, general ward, all of those would then be covered. But very importantly is at what price and at what cost does it come at? Because most people are basically excluded because of affordability.
Right.
And we designed this particular product with that in mind, to have a cost-effective product that would allow members to get into a private healthcare facility as quickly as possible at the fraction of the price. And that's really what it's about. I must hasten to say as well that EMERGIVAC Sharia is not considered to be a medical aid. It's important that I just clarify that point. It's considered to be a medical insurance option.
Right.
Now we don't really like using that term insurance when it comes to Sharia products.
Yes.
But in the South African context, that's just the category of business that it falls into.
Okay.
And I'll be happy to share a little bit more about what's the differences between medical aid.
We'll get into that just now.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay, so I think it's very important for us to understand that when there's an emergency, time is of the essence. So I think that's what this product is particularly addressing. You know, I don't know who I was talking to over the weekend, and they were just saying that sometimes people are at the government facilities and they're just in the queue, and they can be in the queue forever. Meanwhile, they need to be addressed immediately, or they need to be attended to immediately. And unfortunately, you know, because of the process and because of the way the system is, that's what happens. So I think it is a very, very important product that you're bringing to us. So you've mentioned it a little bit already in your answer, but I just want to ask, what was behind the development specifically of EMERGIVAC? What gap or need in emergency preparedness did EMERGIVAC identify when the company was established, when it was even just a thought?
Absolutely, yes. I think there is quite a significant gap in the market, and that gap is that very few people have access to private healthcare in South Africa.
Yep.
It's a very small percentage, and Rashida, your listeners might be surprised by the statistic, but only about 15% of people in South Africa
Wow.
are privately insured through what we know as private healthcare insurance. When you think that, you think medical aid.
Yeah.
So 15% of the population, that translates to about 9 million people in South Africa. And last time I checked, there's more than 60 million of us. So it means that 85% of the population are very much dependent on the state clinics and state hospitals.
Yes.
And you know, there are great hospitals, state hospitals out there, great doctors in those facilities, great equipment. But I always say to people that if you throw very high volumes at anything without updating the infrastructure and the resources, of course there will be bottlenecks. So the conversation you had with someone about waiting in the queues is really common. And sometimes people wait not only for an hour, not only for a day, but sometimes for weeks for a procedure to happen. So when we designed this particular product, we had that in mind, and COVID really exposed that during the COVID period.
For sure.
And that's really when it was looked at, then we thought, you know, the company thought there's something needs to be done, and that's why this particular product was developed, is so that the ordinary person that cannot necessarily afford 3,000, 4,000, 10,000 for medical aid for them and their family members can basically get access to cover that will allow them to get into any private healthcare facility anywhere in the country for less than 1,000 Rand this year.
Okay, so I mean, that's a good point for me to ask you. So how do the benefits work and what is the pricing like? Because I'm just thinking about what we pay for medical aid as a family, a relatively healthy family, you know, no major issues, but what we're paying. So I'm just curious, how do the benefits work and what is the pricing like on EMERGIVAC Sharia?
Sure. So in terms of the benefits itself, we try to make it as simplistic as possible for members to understand, and also as accessible as possible. And I just want to mention this at the start because sometimes people think like, you know, if I want to access the benefit, who do I call? Where do I go? And we've used a lot of technology for members to access their benefits. And I'll get into the detail in a moment. So everything is fully on a mobile application. And the mobile application acts as a panic button as well.
Wow.
So if a person is in trouble and they need a medical assistance, they can basically just go onto the app, hit the button, and we'll be able to respond throughout our control room, which is available 24/7, 365. Coming back to just the benefits itself, as I mentioned earlier, it's a medical emergency and evacuation benefit. And what it does is it allows a member to access a private healthcare facility in the event of an accident-related emergency, but also an illness-related emergency. And people often think, accident, what's that? You know, what comes to mind immediately is a motor vehicle accident, but it extends way beyond
more
that.
than that, of course.
It could be, you know, you just going up the staircase or down the staircase, you're doing some housework at home, you climb up a ladder, or even a wet floor and you slip and fall. Or even if you're playing a sport, you know, as a hobby or recreationally, and you fracture something really bad or suffer a concussion, all of those, you know, could be, you know, considered as accidents. And illness covers pretty much any illness-related emergency. The common ones that come to mind is heart attacks, strokes, but it could be sudden loss of consciousness. That is a life-threatening situation. And many other things as well. So just in terms of the cover, so we basically would cover once a panic button has been hit, we are notified of the situation. We will then arrange private transportation. This could be by road or by air, and we work with all the ambulance companies in South Africa. So the application allows us to identify where the member is. So it is GPS enabled. But at the same time, it allows us to try and identify emergency services in the vicinity. Because every second counts. And then we can also start looking at which hospitals are also in the vicinity. So the transportation to a hospital, if the member is admitted into hospital, all the expenses related to that emergency. So if it's an emergency theater or surgery costs or surgery is required, we'll cover the costs and the expenses thereof. we'll cover investigative tests that needs to be done. For example, if someone's been in a motor vehicle accident and they hit their head, it's likely they'll have to do some kind of a scan, perhaps a CAT scan, MRI scan, blood tests, and the surgeons, the specialists, etc. And then also the hospital facility, whether it's ICU, high care, or general ward. So we'll cover all those expenses. And those expenses, puts a member, gives them peace of mind. We cover those expenses. And even in a situation or scenario where the member has not been admitted into hospital, which happens sometimes, you get to casualty and, they sort everything out, charge you from that. We also do cover casualty benefit as well. And then members might be, or the listeners might be thinking, so how much do you cover? How does it compare? So we basically cover between 155,000 and 500,000 for individuals.
That's a lot. That's R500,000.
Up to R500,000 for individuals.
Yeah.
If you've got your family with you, we'll cover between 386,000 and 1.1 million. So it does give quite significant benefits. And in addition to the core benefit, which deals with the hospitalization piece, we've also included some additional emergency benefits in there as well. We've got something called EMERGIVAC, and EMERGIVAC is a 24-hour armed response on your person. So if someone is perhaps traveling from home to work or going to the mall, picking the kids up from school, they feel threatened, there's an imminent crime that's about to happen, they can just feel it or see it, they can hit the panic button on the app as well, and we'll be able to send an armed response to their location as well. And that's also embedded into the app.
No medical aid does that. I don't think so.
100%. So we looked at how we could make this app as as holistic as possible in terms of covering emergency services. Medical emergencies, obviously, everybody might need that. But in South Africa, we've got a unique set of circumstances, and there's the crime aspect as well. That's why we included this. There's also roadside assistance that's included. There's a household assistance, which is included as well. And we've got a member wellness program that's embedded into the app as well. So if someone needs psychological support, we've got a mental health and wellness line that's available, which they can trigger from their app as well. There's also a medical advice line should a member want to engage with a nurse, a registered nurse, for some professional assistance with medication, travel information, etc. And we've also got a mom and baby line, which is also embedded into it as well. So this is for expectant moms with young kids. Dads can also call. If they've got need advice, they want to speak to a professional on the other side, they can trigger that from the emergency panic button on the app itself. And then there's also something quite interesting, Rashida, that we also have here. We've got an AI screening capability on the app as well. It's completely embedded. And what this does is it allows a member to basically take out their app, stare into the camera of their phone for 45 seconds to a minute, and get some screening results. So a screening test done, blood pressure, oxygen levels.
Are you sure? Is this really happening? Is this 100%. Really possible? It sounds like science fiction to me.
I always say to people, a few years ago, when they came out with a smartwatch, and they mentioned that smartwatches can start reading your blood pressure, your pulse, and all of that. It was like something amazing. And now just staring into the camera of your smartphone could basically give you some indicative results. And not only that, it will produce a report which will outline what your readings are. And of course, should you see that things are a little bit out of range, you can then basically pass that on to your service provider, to your doctor, to your medical professional to give you a second opinion or further opinion on what's happening.
Okay. Yes. So it sounds very comprehensive and it sounds very holistic. And what is that going to cost the individual? Because that's the bottom line. Everybody wants to know what's going to
100%. I think from a contribution point of view, we don't have any contributions that are over 1,000 Rand. So for yourself, or if you're on the cover with your family, your contributions will start anywhere from 325 Rand, and it will go up to 819. 819 is our upper cover.
Yeah.
And that will be on the premium cover, which will cover up to 1.1 million for a family. And that's for 5 people. So it could be the main insured, your spouse, and up to 3 children. You could be paying 819. So we've got multiple options in between, like I said, between 325 and 819. But there are so many different options to make it as flexible as possible for members. They can choose whether they're coming on by themselves as an individual or with their families. They can choose if they're interested in the accident option only, or they're interested in accident and illness. And they can also choose their cover level. So they can look at their affordability and see, am I going to go with the standard cover, extended cover, or the premium cover, which will cover up to 1.1 million.
So it's quite flexible as well.
Absolutely, it is. The other thing that's pretty important is to mention is that we've also looked at how these products are typically accessed in the market. And we said that considering our objective of making this a product for the community, we will not have any form of waiting periods whatsoever. So there are no waiting periods. If someone decides to take up the cover with us, their cover, after they've paid their first contribution, starts from day one.
Fantastic.
So there are no waiting periods. We do not look if someone has pre-existing conditions. We don't need any medicals or blood samples to assess their risk. So if someone signs up and they are within the entry ages, which is between 18 and 65, then we are happy to sign them up immediately, and their cover starts from day one, as I mentioned.
Well, to me, I'm not a financial person at all, but from what little I can understand of what you're saying, it sounds very, very comprehensive. It sounds flexible, and it sounds quite affordable as well, So I hope that it really takes off, because I think, like you say, there's a million people that need this kind of emergency cover in South Africa alone.
50 million plus.
Wow. So so I think I wish you all the best. But on that note, we're going to take a short ad break. And when we're back, we'll discuss some more about this very interesting product, EMERGIVAC Sharia. Thank you. So much, and welcome back to the mid-morning talk show live here with Rashida Khan, and very, very interesting discussion we're having with brother Cassim Abdullah from EMERGIVAC area. So because we're running short on time, I'm just going to head straight in, dive right in. So you mentioned earlier that this is a medical insurance option. You said that's the title that we would have to give it here in the South African context. But for people to try and understand what is the difference between medical aid and medical insurance, can you just explain that a little bit for us, please?
Certainly. So I think there's quite a number of differences, but I'll stick to the main difference. And the main difference is that medical aid is regulated and governed by the Medical Schemes Act of 1990.
Okay.
So it is governed and regulated completely separately from all the other products that are referred to as medical insurance products. Medical insurance products like EMERGIVAC and others in the market are typically written like your day-to-day sort of insurance. And when I say day-to-day insurance, I'm referring to things like motor and household insurance, your cell phone insurance, your building insurance, and so on. And EMERGIVAC is written more like a long-term product, which is more like a life type of product. So just to make that point very clear, medical aids are regulated separately, Medical Schemes Act of 1998, and your medical insurance options are basically regulated in terms of the Insurance Act. And this could either be a short-term type product, or it could be a long-term product, like in the case of EMERGIVAC. So all the rules that are applicable to medical aids are not necessarily applicable to medical insurance options. And that's part of the reason why they're so much more cost effective than medical aids.
Okay.
Because medical aids have certain necessary benefits that they refer to as prescribed minimum benefits that they have to cover.
Okay.
And I won't go into too much detail on that, but there's about approximately 270 hospital admissions that they have to cover, and about 27 chronic conditions that they have to cover.
Okay.
Now, this obviously pushes up the price, and
yes.
This is sort of a main driver of the higher costs associated with medical aids. Medical insurance products don't have those some of those rules and restrictions. Yes, absolutely.
Okay, interesting to know. All right, and tell me, who's your target market? So who did EMERGIVAC have in mind when it designed this product?
Yeah, so we definitely had the community in mind. And when I say community, we are referring to the general public, in essence, individuals with their families. We're also focusing very much on groups. And when we are saying groups, we are talking about employer groups. And often when I address people about groups, they say, well, okay, so you're interested in big companies, with 100, 500, 1,000 people. And the answer is absolutely no. We consider groups from 5 employees upwards.
Okay.
And so because we know that a good way of delivering the product would be through an employer group, because many employers that we speak to out there, they have the employees' best interest in mind.
Yes.
And sometimes they even want to subsidize or co-pay. But when they look at medical aid prices, they're like, it's impossible. We just cannot afford this.
Small businesses, you can't expect them to carry those expenses.
100%. So that's exactly it. And so we engage with businesses of all sizes, small companies, 5 employees, 7 employees, 10 employees, all the way up to big companies that have more than 100 or 500 employees as well. And we're able to offer them even preferential rates to make it a bit easier for the employees to access it. So the employer pays less and the employee pays less as well. So we're focusing on groups as well. And then we also focus on, sometimes people think like we're only looking at formal sort of groups, and that's not really the case. Informal groups, if you will, religious organizations and associations.
Okay.
For example, a masjid. Masjid has trustees.
Yes.
It has its mutawalis. The mutawalis then employ an imam, muaddin, muallimas, alims, teachers, and so on, cleaning staff, and so on. And perhaps there's 5, 10 people there that they employ, and they'd like to get this covered since it is takaful and Sharia compliant. And we are certainly happy to look at them as a group as well. So for us, there's no distinction that it's maybe an informal organization or association, but certainly we're able to offer to them as well.
Okay.
And the preferential rates do help, so the employer is able to get a better rate for them and their employees.
Okay, well, that's good to know. But I mean, just understanding the way this product is designed, I think it's, it makes us realize that we need to be thinking about our future, immediate future as well as our medium to long-term future. So how important is proactive emergency planning rather than reactive responses?
It is absolutely critical
Yeah.
because with emergencies, they happen, they are unplanned. They always happen at the moment that one least expects it. And the thing is, one really requires the best emergency care in the immediate period after the event has taken place. So the first 24 hours, 48 hours is
critical.
absolutely critical. And if someone can be transported with a private ambulance that can respond within minutes, and then be transported to the nearest private healthcare facility and then get the care that they need immediately, that certainly does help.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, when the event happens, it's possible to think about what type of cover can I get.
Yeah.
The other thing is also to consider is that private healthcare facilities across the country, of course, are for-profit businesses, and they just want the assurance that when somebody comes into the emergency room, that they are going to be paid.
For sure.
So sometimes, if you're unable to produce a medical aid card or proof of cover with a medical insurance provider, they may ask you to pay upfront. And in that situation, when an emergency has just taken place, you've got a loved one with you that you really want them to get care immediately, to fork out 10, 20, 30, 40, 50,000 sometimes, depending on the severity, is almost impossible for most people.
Yeah.
So it is absolutely critical to look at these things in advance and ensure that you find something suitable for your family. Obviously, that fits your pocket and your affordability. But if you have the cover in advance, should something like that happen, you know that you are at least covered, whether you're in Johannesburg, whether you're traveling to Durban, whether you're in the Western Cape. We basically provide the coverage throughout the country.
Okay, thank you so much for your time today. Finally, one last question. How can our listeners learn more about emergency EMERGIVAC services? And another question I want to make sure I get an answer to. Can anyone access this product, or do they have to be Muslim because it's called EMERGIVAC Sharia?
Yes, that's a great question. Maybe I'll answer your last question first. So in terms of that, anybody can access EMERGIVAC. So we've got EMERGIVAC Sharia. But before we had EMERGIVAC Sharia, we developed the EMERGIVAC product, which is a conventional product. But our intention was always to work on getting a Sharia option available for the Muslim community. So it took us some time, took us 18 months to ensure that we get the product right, that the product complies with the values and principles of Sharia and Takaful products. And so that and that process, like I said, took 1.5 years. So to answer your question, EMERGIVAC Sharia is available to the Muslim community, but should anybody else want to join, they're also able to access the EMERGIVAC Conventional, which has the same benefits and has the same pricing, but obviously in terms of the structure of the products, one is in line with Sharia values and principles, and is monitored very closely to ensure that the funds flow properly, and that it is audited on a regular basis as well. And the other one will just sort of follow a more conventional process. So anybody can access EMERGIVAC. Okay.
Let us know how we can access it.
Yes, and then your earlier question was around accessing it.
Yeah.
A member can basically log onto our website, or prospective member, www.emergivac.co.za. We have a presence on most social media platforms as well. And for groups, as you mentioned in your introductions, if there's any employers out there that is interested to get a quotation or wants to know a little bit more for their employees or for their group, they can just email me. And my email address is Cassim, Cassim, @emergivac.co.za. They can send me an email and I'll reach out to them and we can do a quotation and we can see whether EMERGIVAC will fit nicely in for their organization and their employees.
Jazakallah so much. Thank you so much, Brother Cassim. It was a pleasure and really enlightening talking to you today. I wish you all the best, and inshallah, we hope to talk to you soon in the near future. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah, and jazakallahu khair for inviting us. It was a great pleasure to be with you, Rashida.
Ameen. Jazakallah.
Ameen.